Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today we'll be talking about West Side Story and how the media is continuing to try and push cover for what is clearly a box office failure and does not have much chance of any to be able to make up the massive amount of money it needs to make in order for it to break even at the box office. And again, why it is that the media continues to try and run cover for this and so many other films in previous years, and of course over the time of the pandemic as well. Again, it is kind of creepy when you see media running cover for movies from giant studios. It just, again, kind of is a little bit troubling to me. Before we go any further, though, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure you're subscribed to the channel with a bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. So as you can see from Deadline, West Side Story goes south in offshore debut, but is there a place for it over time? So it's amazing to me that the media will, especially the box office media, will oftentimes declare films completely bust, will explain why a film completely failed, but then every now and then they will run cover for a movie. They'll say, oh yeah, the movie didn't open very strong, but oh, don't worry, it's got a chance, or does it have a chance, right? They'll kind of leave these open-ended questions a bit, and obviously, this is something where I can understand why anyone who is a big fan of this release, I've heard a lot of people in the comment section say, hey, it's actually a really good film. And I'm not denying whether the film is good or bad, as I myself have not actually seen the film yet, so I will reserve judgment on the film itself. What I do know is that it's a remake, reboot, whatever it is you want to call it, of a film that, again, is considered by most people to be a classic, so a film that people would typically rather have not seen touched at all, and then Spielberg, of course, had to put his hands all over it, and also a film that clearly has motivations behind it as well, by the very fact that you have, in one case, a character who was traditionally, and again, written to be a female tomboy character, turned into a trans character, and then also having Spanish throughout the film, which makes complete sense, but then Spielberg deciding, oh, you know what, I'm not going to have any English subtitles for those moments, because that would be somehow that would be some in some way white supremacist or trying to say English is better or something, like, again, some stupid reason like that, when in the end all that it would be doing is allowing for the American audience especially, which is, guess what, vast majority English speaking, who have very little, if any, understanding of the Spanish language, the ability to actually know what's being said and what is going on. So when you have those kind of elements attached to the film, it kind of gives me pause as to, one, wanting to actually go see this film, and two, thinking that even if there are some really well-done elements in the film, because I've seen some clips from it, and it looks like it's well-made. I mean, Spielberg is a talented filmmaker, so I don't think that it's going to be a complete trash movie as far as the objective elements of the film, but you can clearly see that there are some identitarian elements to the movie. There are clearly some political motivations to this film, which makes me wonder if this is the reason why someone like Nancy over at Deadline is trying to run cover for it. So this is not me saying that the film is bad, because again, I've not seen the film. What I am saying is that based on how much this film cost, which is an insane amount of money for, one, a musical in this modern day and age, and two, for a film that is making as little as it is, how it ever could possibly make its money back, specifically at the box office. We're not talking about down the line, years from now, but talking specifically about the box office run, because when you look at the law of diminishing returns, and when you look at how much money it made in its opening weekend worldwide, there is just no mathematical way for this film to be able to reach the amount of money it needs to break even. So as it goes on to say here, it says, with stellar critical and audience scores, there is certainly a place for Disney's 20th Century Studios' Amblin's West Side Story, and the hope is that they will grow through the coming weeks. In its debut session at the international box office, however, the Steven Spielberg directed version of the classic musical landed well below expectations. In 37 material markets, which includes 6 majors, West Side Story grossed $4.4 million. Far under the low end of the projected range coming into the session. The global total through Sunday is $15 million. The film made $15 million worldwide. That's domestic and international. Internationally, it only made $4.4 million in 37 markets. Now, one of the things, of course, that everyone has been talking about in the comments section, people who love to make excuses for these kinds of numbers, is, well, Omicron. It's like, okay, why then do you have other variants that were just as prominent and actually even more deadly that were out, and yet those didn't stop people from going to see other films in their releases? So that excuse can only go so far. It really is getting tired. Not to mention, we have a film coming out this week, which is going to blow that narrative out of the water. If you're going to tell me that, the first week, right, this week, it was Omicron. But when Spider-Man comes out and it blows every other film out of the water, that's because it's an MCU film, even though I've clearly indicated and proven that it's a Sony film, right? Marvel obviously is associated with the film. It's putting up 25% of the actual capital for the film, and so it's definitely going to get billing with it, but it's a Sony property. Sony owns 75% of the actual profits from the film. So it doesn't matter what Sony is saying. It doesn't matter what anyone's saying. Trolls, all that matters is how much money is being put up by each studio. And guess what? Sony puts up 75%. But that's, of course, for another video because people continue just to act idiotic in that way. When it comes to this film, though, $15 million. This film costs $100 million, actually, to make before marketing. When you add in marketing costs, typical marketing costs, this film jumps up to around $150 million. Remembering that the studio only gets about 60% back return on its investment by the end of its theatrical run, you're looking at a film that needs to make a hefty amount of money in order for it to ever get close to the break-even point. It goes on in this article to say, so what happened? Anthony has the domestic rundown here, and offshore is somewhat similar situation. There was an increased COVID fear. There it is. Again, I think it was a video I did a couple weeks ago where basically they tried to act as if COVID is not really an excuse, and now they're using it as an excuse once again. And once Spider-Man comes out, I'm sure that they will just completely ignore, or they'll say, in spite of, to try and again run cover for films like this. Increased fears of COVID in Europe, and older audiences are not rushing out to see it. And they catch during the downtime after holiday preparations are through. In terms of individual markets, the UK leads with 1.7 million, followed by France with 1.1 million. He goes on to say after that, we cast downwards to Germany at 300,000, Russia and Netherlands at 200,000. Russia and Germany were expected to be soft, and Netherlands has a 5 p.m. curfew in place. So given the competitive landscape ahead, which includes the upcoming Spider-Man and Matrix, there was not much else room to land in terms of release date. Yeah, meaning this film had no competition in all, for all fact of the matter. Its only competition was Encanto, which we all have argued, or rather, I have pointed out specifically on this channel, is not doing very well. It's actually had pretty strong holds from week on to week on, but because of its incredibly low debut, it is not on pace to make its money back. There's an even bigger issue going on, though, with a film like West Side Story, because with about 14.9 million, or a little over 15 million at this point in time worldwide, and a $100 million production budget, meaning its break-even point is $250 million worldwide, even if this film, right? Because basically the narrative that's trying to be spun by Deadline is that there's a bunch of old people that are just terrified to go to see a movie right now. And so they're going to wait. And over the holiday season, they're just going to come out in droves. All of the old people are just going to come out of their retirement homes. They're just going to come out of nowhere, and they're going to just, put hundreds of millions of dollars towards this movie. That is basically what the narrative is being set up by this article, if you actually read what it says. Because this is trying to argue that, over time, it's going to be able to make its money back. But here's the issue. Because of the law of diminishing returns, if you're starting off with $15 million, even if you have 30% drops week on to week on, you can only make, mathematically, a certain amount of money. And I can tell you right now, it's not going to be anywhere near the $250 million that this film needs to break even. You add on top of that it's going to face massive competition from Spider-Man, which is going to saturate the market. Again, Spider-Man's going to be the biggest film of this year. There's just no question about it. You then have a film like The Matrix coming out, which personally, I have no care for whatsoever. It's a clear cash grab opportunity. That the poster alone looks like it was made by a fan, and not even a talented fan at that. I honestly, we look at the holiday season, and we look at all of the films that are expected to come out, and all the films and all the marketing, and all the films that have been delayed. And this was really the only week for it to be able to make a huge splash, and it didn't. So the fact that you have these major companies like Deadline running cover for a film that is clearly struggling, that is clearly not in a position to make its money back, just kind of, again, exposes the nature of the business. When they have these Oscar bait type films and then they try to run cover for them because they're friends with Spielberg, or because they want to appeal to Spielberg, or want to appeal to Disney, or whatever it is, whatever their motivation might be, it again clearly shows their hand, and it clearly shows that they are willing to ignore basic mathematics, just like what we have seen with people in the comment section ignoring basic mathematics, either with this film when I originally covered it, or with films like Spider-Man, which again, 75% of which was paid for by Sony, which means it's a Sony film. And even if Sony is saying, it's a Marvel film, guess what? Mathematically, at the end of the day, realistically, in the real world, mathematically, it's still a Marvel film. In the same way, when we look at this movie, $15 million, okay, let's say all the old people come out over time. They slowly start to creep out over time. Ain't going to be enough. There's no way that this film can reach the $250 million mark with this kind of an opening, especially when Spider-Man is just going to blow everything out of the water. But anyway, what are your thoughts about this? Again, this is something that I saw and I was like, this is just bothering me too much. I got to talk about it. What are your thoughts? Do you think West Side Story is just going to somehow make its money back? And again, we're talking about in theaters here. All right. This is not saying that the film is not going to maybe have a second life on Blu-ray or 4K, which again, I still doubt, because there are enough people out there that see this film and say, I like this a lot, but you know what? I kind of prefer the original. Or, you know what? I really like this film and I might watch it again, but it's fine. I'm not really seeing as many people saying, oh my gosh, this is the best movie I've ever seen. I'm going to watch it 1,000 different times. And if those people exist, they are smaller in number. And so they might put up the money. They might be able to, try and breathe life into it, but it doesn't seem like they're going to be enough, especially in its theatrical run. Even if you were to see this film like 100 times in theaters, if you were to get 100 people to see this 100 times in theaters, you still wouldn't get anywhere close to the amount of money it needs to break even. And this, again, goes back to the bigger problem, which I've been talking about for a long time, and that is that studios need to stop putting crazy amounts of money, really wasting money in their films, when we know as a fact that really well-made films, whether it's animation, musical, or otherwise, can be made on incredibly low budgets. If you want to see an example of a musical that can be made on an incredibly low budget, I recommend Anna and the Apocalypse. If you've never seen that film, it's a great film. And it's a musical. And there's a lot of stuff going on in that film. And guess what? It didn't cost $100 million. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like this video, smash that like button. A lot of that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.
And now for a huge shout out to all of my December Patreon Subscribe Star and Locals members. Animation commentator Brandon, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Dolores Ed, Dion, Father Christopher Miller, Hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Hannibal Grimm, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeff Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Gomer Kyles 79, Laura, the Modern Major General's Story, Mike Jackson ×4, Mitch Dunaway, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody, Mondo Spieler, On to June, Orange Chat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Ullen, Stan Andrian, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, and Tina Bojan, and of course, the Empress of the Universe, Tina B. Thank you very much for being my Patreon members. And for my Subscribe Star members, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stan 4, John B., Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod, the Beer Guru, and ZK-Man. Thank you very much for supporting me on Subscribestar. And to my 4 members over on Locals.com, Kara Tharp, UAB Mad Dog, once again, Mike Jackson, Bifford a Hobbit, and Robert Barnes. Thank you for supporting me on Locals. And if you want to have your name shouted out at the end of every video and live stream, check out the top link in the video description below. It's called Willow, or .w.lo, Willow link. It'll bring you to all of my social media platforms and also to all of the various other locations that you can support the channel. You can get access to things like giveaways, where I do giveaways of 4K films, 4K steelbooks, digital codes, all kinds of stuff every single month. Also, there's a level where you get access to all of that, plus an exclusive podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger, where you also get to ask questions that we will answer on every episode of the podcast. And at the final level, you also have the ability, the Chosen of Valhalla level, you have the ability to have all of that, plus in your first month, get a free t-shirt of your choice, any color, sent anywhere in the world, and also you get to be featured once a month on the Chosen of Valhalla live stream featured on the main channel. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, check out the link in the description. You're all amazing and beautiful people. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.